These people are mad because you refuse to join their misery. You escape the trap of being bitter, and they don't like that. There are some people, because they are bitter, miserable, resentful, jealous, and or envious, they expect for you to be the same way. There are some people, they don't like individuals who are not bitter, but you're busy. You're busy focusing on yourself. You're busy leveling up. You're busy focusing on things that are important to you. You don't have time to join in their misery, and they don't like that. Some of the jealousy and envy that you get from other people is simply because you are not a bitter and miserable person. You heard me right. There are some people who will be jealous and envious of the fact that you are not a bitter and miserable person. If you have optimism, if you have joy, if you love to do things that don't involve tearing other people down, there are going to be a lot of people who may not like you. You are not going to be the most popular person in the bunch. So these people are mad because you escaped their misery trap. You escaped. You are not bitter and miserable like them, and they don't like it. There are some women who get jealous and envious of the fact that there are some women who, instead of gossiping and putting down other women, they don't like to sit around doing those kind of things. You'd rather do something more productive with your time. You'd rather go shopping. You'd rather focus on your next meal and what you're going to cook for your family. You'd rather focus on anything other than something negative. Sometimes when you are not, as they say, a bad person or a miserable, bitter-spirited, mean-spirited person, that will trigger some jealousy and envy in other people. The fact that you would be punished, almost punished, for not being bitter and miserable, it seems unreal to say the least, but it is a fact. There are some people who operate so heavily in darkness, so heavily in jealousy, envy, and being a hater. They've adopted those things as their personality. When you are the opposite of that, when you are not a bitter, miserable person, there are going to be some people who don't like you because you're not bitter. This brings me to the next point. When people get mad because you escaped the trap, you are not bitter and miserable like them, it's because you did not allow your environment, the circumstances, or the people to make you a bitter woman. You did not allow the circumstances, the situation, or the people to make you miserable to the point that you became a bitter, mean-spirited, angry woman. Some of the most jealous, envious people you will meet, especially other women, they allow their circumstances, other people trying to fit in, to make them a jealous, envious, miserable hater. There's this old saying that says, if you can't beat them, join them. No, I say if you don't want to deal with them, get away from them. See, the fact that you're not able to be influenced by jealous, envious, miserable people, that'll be another reason why some people will look at you as if you are some kind of problem. They will treat you as if you are the problem, you are their issue, simply because you're not a bitter and mean-spirited person. When you have power and strength to not let other people influence you into being a bitter, miserable, angry woman, that is powerful. But it is also a target for people who are jealous and envious of the fact that you can't be influenced in that way. So these people are mad because you are not a bitter, miserable, angry woman. You escaped that trap. You don't care if you came from a lineage, from a family of women who were nothing more than bitter, miserable people. You don't care if you were around people who got joy out of tearing other people, other women down. You did not become like that. You surround yourself with people who like to build others up, not tear them down. And that in of itself will cause people to be jealous and envious of you. That brings me to the next point. When people get mad because you are not a bitter, miserable person, you don't allow people to influence you into being bitter, miserable with their jealousy, envy, and their miserable behavior. When you choose to be around people that are not them, when you start having friends outside of the circle of where you live, When you start having friends or associates or hobbies or careers, or you live outside of the influence of jealous, envious people, don't be surprised if they mock you. Don't be surprised if they try to take you as a joke. The true joke is on them, because while you're not subscribing to that jealous, envious, bitter mentality, people, and this is a little bit of a sidebar, but still on point, people who get mad because you're not a bitter, miserable, mean-spirited person, you escaped that trap, you didn't let people influence you, believe it or not, they don't want to be that way either. But the reason why their jealousy and envy comes into play, because unlike you, you were strong enough to get away from those people who would influence you toward being that kind of way. There are a lot of women who are not naturally mean-spirited. They are not naturally bullies. They are not naturally the kind of people that would sit around and try to tear other women down. But because they're surrounded by angry birds, they become just like them. This reminds me of a verse of scripture. It just comes up out of me. It says, bad company corrupts good habits. If you surround yourself with people who are miserable, jealous, envious, and negative all the time, there's only a matter of time before you become that way. And there are some people who are hoping that they can influence you into being just as bitter and just as miserable as they are. So these people are mad because you are not a bitter, miserable, mean-spirited person like they are. You escaped that trap. I want to backtrack on something I was saying about your circle. When you start making friends with or having associates that are outside of the circle of your influence, when you start making friends with women who are not miserable, who are not mean-spirited, the people who know you closely, who might have been close to you at one point, but yet now you're not really close to them because of how they act. You don't have time to be around people who just want to gossip. You don't have time to be around people who just want to put other people down. In other words, you're not messy and miserable. There are going to be some people who are going to treat you like you sold out because you have different types of friends. And don't be a black woman with white friends. My goodness. And I had to say it exactly how it's coming to me. There are some people, and I'm not saying that having friends of a different ethnicity is like a safe option. There have been many situations where people have been in different situations based on some of these things. And I don't want to get into details about that. But I say this to say, in certain circles, when you escape the trap of becoming a bitter, mean-spirited, miserable woman, it's because you're choosing not to hang around bitter, mean-spirited, miserable women. And I have to say it as a woman of this persuasion, sometimes we are some of the most mean and miserable women. And sometimes you want to go outside of that because you need peace. They always say for men, oh, a man wants peace. Women want peace too. We want peace in our friendships. We want peace in our relationships. We want peace with the people we choose to associate with. And sometimes we can't get that from our own. I hate to say that, but if you've been on this channel any amount of time, you know I speak it exactly how it is for the most part. And sometimes trying to be friends with somebody who looks like you can be very difficult. We have mood, attitude for days. I'm not saying other people don't have that. I'm just saying, and this is a little bit of a sidebar, but still on point of some people get mad when you're not a bitter, miserable, mean-spirited woman. When you are not the stereotypical angry black woman, because a lot of women are, they're not going to like you. They're going to treat you like you sold out because you're not fitting the stereotype of being a bitter, angry woman. So when you start making friends with the Samantha, with the Susie, and they're a little bit more cheery, I'm not saying that women of a European descent don't have their ways, because they absolutely do. But I can tell you this, having been in customer service, having went to different places, I'll give you a real story here. I recently went to the emergency room for my daughter, and I went in a more urban environment. During that kind of interaction, they were not able to help her. They did the bare minimum. We had to go outside of the city and they fixed her issue just like that. They were kind, they had a mild bedside manner, and they fixed the issue. I say that to say, sometimes our character, our attitude, and our demeanor, that holds us back from being friends or friendly to one another. I say this to say, when you start being the kind of woman that is not bitter, not miserable, not angry, you want to associate with people who are also like that. And sometimes that's not going to be people that look like you. Now, I am not saying that all women like myself are like that, because I'm not like that, but a lot are. So these people are mad because you are not bitter, you are not miserable, you are not angry. You escaped that trap. This brings me to the next point. When you are the kind of woman that is not bitter, not miserable, not angry, you will have women who are more angry and bitter who are going to be jealous and envious of you. They are not going to like that soft, that kind, that feminine nature. They're not going to like that. They're not going to like that you don't sit around with resting bee face all the time, gritting on people. They're not going to like the fact that you wear beautiful, flowy dresses or, loud popping colors because everybody is looking all grim and down and depressed. Who wants to deal with that all the time? I'm being a little animated, but I'm saying this to say, when you are not a bitter, miserable woman, when you don't have an angry demeanor, there are going to be some women who do not like you simply because you're not angry enough. And I realized this a long time ago. I realized this when I was trying to talk sweetly and nicely and kindly to certain people, and they seemed irritated. Have you ever noticed that sometimes the more kind and the more nice you are to certain women, the more irritated they are with you? Have you ever noticed, like, when you really start speaking with more of an attitude in your voice, and you got that, like, rah-rah, then all of a sudden they're receiving you? It's unfortunate, but I say that to say, when you're not a bitter, miserable kind of woman, when you don't carry that angry energy, there are going to be some women who do not like you because of it. So these people are mad because you are not a miserable person. You are not miserable. You are not bitter. You did not fall into that trap. I want to go back on something I mentioned about not allowing people to influence you. Now, I know for many people, you might be thinking, how can somebody influence a grown woman? It's not that somebody is telling you how to be. It's not that they're telling you do this, don't do that. It's the people you surround yourself with. Even on a subconscious level, if you hear somebody say something over and over again, you'll tend to believe it if you don't have anything to combat that. I say that to say, some women end up bitter and miserable because that's all they're surrounded by. The ideals, the way they see life, the way they see people, the way they see relationships. Sometimes women are single not by choice, but because they've been scared into being single by some bitter bird that has been hurt, or she's been the issue, and instead of working on herself, she just wants to make other women single angry birds. No, I'm not saying every single woman is bitter. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that to say sometimes women will influence you based on their own misery. And I wish more women would understand this. There are some women that you call friend. They're not your friends. They want to see you have the same down life. They want to see you down bad, just like them. They don't want to see you happy because they have not experienced those kind of things. So they try to make you bitter and miserable and angry. And using the example of relationships, I run away from women who are always putting down men. The he-man, woman, man-hating club, I don't like that. I don't like, oh, men are bad, this and that. Yeah, there are some men that are bad, but no, I will never subscribe to that. I don't like that kind of rhetoric. It comes off as I'm angry, I'm hurt, I've never been chosen, and I just surrender to this idea because no man likes me. I don't like that idea. And no, this is not me being a pick me. I've been picked. I'm good. It's none of that stuff. I'm using this as an example that hurt people sometimes like to spread their misery. And if you don't have enough discernment, enough wisdom, enough clarity to understand when somebody is trying to bring you into their bitter web, you could experience the same kind of life, the life that you don't want, because you're listening to people who are projecting and speaking their bitterness, their misery onto you. So these people are mad because you are not a bitter and miserable person. You escaped that trap. So what can you do specifically to escape that trap? Number one, do not listen to the rhetoric of jealous, envious people. When a person is miserable and jealous and envious of others, they will always see the bad in everything. If you are a more positive, optimistic woman, especially a more positive, optimistic woman of color, do not allow jealousy, envy, and negative talk to influence you away from living a softer life, from being happier, from being more joyous. Don't let jealous, miserable people make you feel like you're odd because you see the bright side of things, because you're not always walking around speaking about how bad everything is. Things could be bad in the world, things could be bad in the economy, but you are maintaining. Don't let people take away that optimism, that hope, that joy that you have because they're miserable. Number two, way to protect yourself from bitter, miserable, jealous people is to not allow their issues to become your issues. In other words, don't let people project their jealousy, their envy, and their insecurity onto you. Don't let their fears become your fears. When people are bitter and miserable, they just want somebody to join their party. That saying, misery loves company, that is true. They just want somebody else to sit there and be bitter with them. People like this will often have a problem for every solution that you give them. You don't want to deal with that. And then another way you can deal with people who get mad because you're not a bitter, miserable person is to stay away from them. You don't want to surround yourself with people who never see the bright side of anything. They don't have any hope. And I'm not talking about those who really been through things. I'm talking about those who are jealous and envious of others. And because they're all down and they don't want other people to be happy, they want you to be the same way. That's what I'm talking about. So these people are mad because you are not a bitter, angry, miserable woman, and they want you to be. Continue to keep your joy, continue to keep your optimism, and do not let people and the way they try to make fun of you make you feel bad because you're not a bitter, miserable, or angry woman. Like and subscribe to the channel and share this content. Hit the notification bell so that you're aware when I post a brand new video. If you watch this video until the very end, leave the cute little high heel emoji in the comment section. I absolutely love to see it. Take care.